agri-food system. Part of the team, as you know, the webinar is artificial intelligence applied to agriculture and what impact we can expect. We'll present advances and possible applications of AI in agriculture, as well as exploring the benefits. And I would have a length of approximately 1.5 hours. And as you know, we will be YouTube in English and Facebook in Spanish. We also have, as said, simultaneous interpretation through Zoom by choosing the channel in the lower part of the platform. And finally, we will have an exchange space. Therefore, we ask you to please make use of the different tools to pose your questions, either through the Q&A function in Zoom, through the chat, or through different YouTube or Facebook chats. Due to time constraints, we'll cover the most amount of questions, entertain the most amount of questions. Without further ado, Federico Bert, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carlos, and good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. And I do want to, on behalf of ICA, welcome you. Give you a warm welcome to this webinar. My name is Federico Bert, and together with Carlos and Alicia Alcantara, we're part of the digital agro-food digitalization program in ICA. For those who don't know us, it's many of us here today, so you don't require to think who we all are. But ICA, as the Inter-American Institute for Agriculture Cooperation, is the organization specialized of the Inter-American, the system specialized in agriculture. And every day we work with the 34 member states of America, from Argentina to Canada, supporting you in your efforts for the development of agriculture and rurality. And we do this through technical cooperation of excellence. In the technical cooperation agenda of ICA, today, digital transformation of agriculture has a special importance. We understand that digital tools are necessary, apparently not enough for the transformation of agri-food system to have more productive agri-food system, more sustainable, more inclusive. We understand that the progressive incorporation of digital tools to agriculture will cause a revolution with great benefits and with some risks. And for that reason, this topic has gained so much importance in technical cooperation. Digitalization of agriculture, therefore, it has a maximum level of importance of a topic in ICA's technical agenda, which is a program. And as I said, Carlos, Alisi, and myself are part of the team of the agro-food digitalization program in the ICA. Without a doubt, I want to be brief to go quickly to the presentation. We're introducing our guests. Without a doubt, I want to say that artificial intelligence is one of the topics of the year. And it has been and has gained massive interest due to what we saw throughout this year with Chat GPT, or with tools such as Chat GPT, which are a form of artificial intelligence. But artificial intelligence is much more than Chat GPT, and it started much before this year. And clearly, and I think no one will discuss that, artificial intelligence is undergoing or has the potential to be part of all areas of our life, and agriculture is no exception. Therefore, from me, and from the digitalization program, we believe it was very important to have a space like this to try to understand and anticipate the scope and things implicated in artificial intelligence applied to agriculture. This is the way we organize this space today, to be able to learn, and above all, the use or applications of artificial intelligence in agriculture, which is under development, what experiences exist, what benefits, but also what risks are. And as always, in ICA, we do it together with very high level professionals. And for that reason, and I thank in behalf of ICA the presence today of Maria Piles. She's from the University of Valencia, Spain, one of our guest speakers, and Ioannis Athanasiadis from the Bahrain University in Holland, and Lawrence Clerks from the Talca University, Chile, in Holland. As I said, in behalf of everyone, a very a great appreciation to all these very recognized academics in the worldwide in things that directly or indirectly are linked to artificial intelligence. Having said this, and very aware in the ICA that artificial intelligence is a very broad discipline, therefore very difficult to have experts who understand all the dimension of such a broad topic. However, as I said previously, today we have the luck of having these very high level professionals with a great background in some of the variants of artificial intelligence applied to agriculture, and above all, with great capacity for analysis and great critical capacity that can help us think, which is the main objective for this space. For that reason, we invite you to make full use of this hour we have before us. Without further ado, I will say that the dynamic for today is the following. We'll have two presentations, Maria's and second Ioannis. And after the presentations, after these two presentations, we'll have a space, as Carlos said initially, for Q&A. And we invite you to submit your questions through the Zoom features, either the chat or the Q&A in Zoom, or for those who are watching social media, through social media comments. From the team, we'll make our biggest efforts to try to summarize and answer the question, knowing that we're so many of us and this is a topic of great interest, therefore we might not be able to cover all of the questions today. However, without further ado, I give the floor to Maria Piles Gillum. She's a senior researcher of the Laboratory of Image Processing of the University of Valencia. Once again, Maria, on behalf of ICA, thanks for being here. And this is your space for the presentation.
Thank you for the... Can you hear me? Yeah, thank you for the info, Carlos. Okay. Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this very interesting session. And so I just prepare a little bit of what we do in our group. We are in an image and signal processing group in University of Valencia. We work with machine learning and also with Earth observation data. So I included Earth observation in my talk. And then I just touch on different applications in which we've applied machine learning and Earth observation data in agriculture. So like this. Okay, here. This is the outline of my talk. First, I will just provide a perspective on where we are in terms of using AI and AO for sustainable agriculture. And then I'll just go to explain a little bit on two particular applications in which we are now working. One is the early detection of drought, and the other one is the crop yield monitoring, mostly at country or continental scales in this case. So just to get to put into value data and measurement technologies, I wanted to start with with a perspective on how different changes in measurement technology, so from in situ sensors to having airborne observations, and then we also have satellite views, and now we have these hypercubes. This will be an hypercube of data from different satellites. We get different variables in space and time, so we can combine them all, and all this availability of data together with progress on machine learning and different methods also in physical approaches, physical methods, machine learning methods, we've attained like transformative developments in geosciences, and in particular in agriculture. There's, as Federico said in the beginning, there's many machine learning approaches in different domains, not particularly agriculture. But if we focus on the use of machine learning for science and agricultural science, these are, I think, some of the challenges that we have to tackle with. First one is data quality. So we need high quality data to be able to learn patterns from that data and to be able to use automatical tools and statistical tools. So, for instance, if we need survey data for crop yields, so it's important that we start gathering all the data we can about the phenomena we want to observe, so we can then leverage from that data. It's not always the case that we have plenty of data. And second question would be like, okay, we develop these automatical models, and do they respect the laws of the physics? So are we able to include our domain expertise into the machine learning approach? That's an important question, because we also want to put the best of what we know as humans in the models too, so that there are ways in which we can do that, and it's important to make sure that the models respect the laws. And then third question, and important, is the model learning something? Can we learn from the model? Can we understand the model decisions? And that will go into the opening the box of AI, like you say, like you see in this article from Nature. So this is like 3 pillars where I think that we have to put some efforts into the research agenda, so to be able to exploit fully the data at hand for the science and agriculture. First one is targeting machine learning. That's what I mean with that is just to adapt the approaches, the machine learning techniques that are available for many different applications, to adapt them to the data that we have and to the application and context that we need to apply it for, so we can fully exploit it. Second pillar would be like to incorporate domain knowledge, so be able to make models which are flexible, so we can enforce some nature rules or some agroeconomic models and relations that we know. So we make sure that model follows them. And third one would be like learn and explain, be able to learn from the model and explain the model's decision. So as I say here, understanding is harder than fitting. So we can fit a model, but understand what the model is doing, it's harder, but I think this is where we need to go. One way is causality, try to understand whether going beyond correlation and trying to understand cause and effect. And second one is just to be able to explain and to uncover the black box. So with this, I just jump to the first topic, which will be agricultural drought. In this arena, typically, traditionally, the indices that are used to predict droughts are based on precipitation. But we are now able to measure soil moisture from space. And if we are interested in agricultural drought, then that by definition is a deficit in soil moisture. So we've been working in the last years into introducing soil moisture data that we are able to measure from space into the agricultural systems, and in particular in agricultural drought early warning. And one of the first our first contributions was to work and develop an index that was integrating soil moisture, also land surface temperature to account for thermal stress, and vegetation index to account for the fact that there's unhealthy vegetation. Also, we introduced a lag between the soil moisture conditions and the plant response. We found that it was very important for the index to be able to detect the drought on time. And the index is also scalable in time and space depending on the data you have. So this is just to provide an example of the different indices that are available. This is one of them, and there are different categories for the risk. So we can get one map like this every for instance every week, and then we can anticipate if there's going to be a problem in a region and act in advance. So this is a case study in collaboration with Argentina. I wanted to showcase here because we had Agricultural Ministry of Drought Emergency Database in Argentina as a benchmark. So we have really localized in space and time the different emergencies that have occurred in the country. And then in this case, we investigated different indices. So apart from this SMARTY index, we also investigated the standardized soil moisture anomalies, which is just computing the soil moisture anomalies in a period of time between the maximum and the minimum. And then the traditional precipitation indices using 1 and 3 months, and also the standardized precipitation evapotranspiration index, which is also meteorological, not typically agricultural. It excels for droughts, but meteorological drought, not agricultural drought. So then what we could put into value is that if you look at this table here, that there's different metrics, but the true positive rate, it means like we're targeting at 100 here, and that means that we are able to detect all the emergencies. So if you look at the different numbers, the SMARTY, it has the highest score into detecting, followed by the precipitation evaporation index here. And then in the false positive rate, and that is very important for early warning systems, like there are not the rate of false alarms is not very high. We're targeting a 0. And in here, the index, which is only based on soil moisture, has the best score. So overall, we were able to showcase the value of using soil moisture. So, and that goes in the direction of trying to include all the data that we have and try to exploit everything, not with a single index, but learning from all the data that we have. And here is where machine learning comes into play, and this is what we're working on. And this will be like a system that is able to automatically anticipate and detect droughts using as inputs this kind of hypercube, so different Earth observation data and time series. So we have space and time dimensions, and we're able to learn the relations of all these variables with this which is called autoencoder, and this encoder block here. And then importantly, we use a transformation which allows us we transform our data so that it has a Gaussian probability density function, and from there we're able to estimate whether the conditions, the actual conditions, are in the tail of the distribution, and therefore we say that this is an anomaly, and we can raise an alarm. And this is more or less it is very brief explanation, but I hope that I could pass on the message. This is deep learning. Deep learning is typically hard to interpret, but there are ways to interpret it. And then we are working on these explainable AI approaches to gain insight into the model's decisions. So there are different techniques. So our current approach is just to apply like the more approaches, the better, and then see whether we can get an overall picture or on it. And this is an animation to show, how this system will work. So in there you see clouds would be like these anomalies that are extracted from the network, and this is for year 2010, and this will be the months. So you can see that the system automatically targets, like detects this anomaly in time and space, and raises the alarm. Hey, there's something that works, that occur here. In this case, it's not in real time. It's analyzing past data, but still really, I think it's very illustrative that the system was automatically able to detect that the Russian heat wave in 2010 was the highest, stream occurring in that year, in the area of study. So this is just to show the potential of for detection, for artificial intelligence, for detection of this kind of anomalies. And then I'm just moving on to the second part of the presentation, third part, which will be about crop yield. In here, I just wanted to briefly introduce the problem. So here, what we want to do, our problem will be like at a time t within my growing cycle. I want to forecast the end of the season yield. And I want to be able to adapt whether there's, if the prediction is that the yield is going to be really like lower than expected, then I need to react somehow. So there are different questions here. So which indicators can I use? Indicators that can show me like how the crop is progressing a long time. We have Earth observation that can help, also meteorological data. But at what time do we use it? At what time do we get this data? Typically, systems use a phenological metric. That means like the max of the land surface temperature or the mean and NDVI, accumulated precipitation, so this kind of metrics. And I'll show you in a while that with machine learning, you can just directly ingest all the time series and learn from all the time series. That's really an advantage, and capture non-linearities. And then that's important to contextualize it. Is there other info available that is important for the crop, not just environmental, like socio-economic data? For instance, the kilograms of fertilizer. If we have the yield from previous years, that's important, and we need survey data on yield in order to learn these relations, right? And then, of course, there's typically a trade-off between accuracy and earliness of forecasts. So typically, you get more accurate as you go to the harvest, but you need to anticipate. So, yeah, this and data quality is super important I think in all applications, but especially for agriculture. The data that we can have at hand that is important for the problem. I just wanted to show you some studies, research studies we've conducted. In particular, in the US Corn Belt, there's a very rich data set of crop that is available in the USDA here, and then there we had a lot of data to learn. So we just picked 8 states. So there's many counties. For each county, we had a yield data. We had also information about the different phenological states of the different crops. So plenty of data. And our target was to monitor or predict core yield from corn, soybean, and wheat. And then we wanted to integrate different Earth observation data, in particular, not only from the optical sensors, which is typically a vegetation index, like EVI or NDVI, but also from microwaves, which is this vegetation optical depth is more related to the water and biomass of the plants. And this is new satellites are able to provide this data, and it's relevant, and we wanted to put it into value here. Also important for agricultural studies is to have a crop mask. So you can detect which pixels, if you're using data from space, you can detect which pixels are actually having crops and what type of crop. That is super important information, and that can definitely help. And so traditionally, there are seasonal metrics, as you can see here, I explained before, and then machine learnings can directly use the whole time series. And we saw here that when we use the whole time series, we're able to get like 80% of we can explain 80% of variability. Also, importantly, we also looked at early predictions, and predictions were feasible up to 4 months before harvest, which was meeting most demands. So in a data-rich environment, we're able to do really good things with this, with artificial intelligence. And in this other study, what we wanted is not to just focus on the accuracy of the models, but also in their interpretation. So we started to use different machine learning approaches, and we ended up recommending the use of Gaussian process regression for this problem, for these 3 main points. So this is they naturally provide not only the estimate but also the uncertainty of the estimate in their formulation. Uncertainty is also very important information to provide, along with you do some prediction. So when the model is more reliable or is less reliable, it comes along naturally. They are interpretable by nature also, so it is very important to increase trustworthiness and support decision-making processes. And then we also can design part of it, which is called the kernel function, so we can account for the problem at hand. So we have non-stationarity data, non-linear processes, different varying scales, so we can design this function to work with it. And so yes, this is just for instance, one explainability plot will be this one, in which we can learn of the relevance of the predictor variable. So for instance, here soil moisture was the most relevant, followed by the enhanced precipitation index, and then it was temperature, precipitation, BOD. We can also, well, I'll show you later other explainable approaches. Yeah, in the next slides. Yeah, this is in Europe. Europe is there's also a lot of data available, but it is much more complex because of heterogeneity. And the corn belt is very homogeneous. So we do work in the counter scale, and it's still very homogeneous. But here the crop mask is really important. And when you have like this smaller parcels, and the spatial resolution of the data is also important. And so in here we just apply the CPR models using the data available from Eurostats, and satellite data, and also reanalysis from ECMWF. So we wanted to investigate what were the most informative drivers. So we started to use a wide amount of input data, and what we learned, the lesson learned from this study, was that we needed to input in the models descriptors of the soil and the vegetation and the atmospheric conditions. So the best models were always picking like one descriptor of each component, like atmosphere, vegetation, and soil. So the model is able to learn from the synergies of the 3 and get the whole picture, which makes sense. Huh? And one more step into interpretability of these models is that once you have the model fitted and you get a good, like, you trust the model, like you get very high accuracies, you can actually learn from it. You can obtain what are the most influential regions which are learned from the model, which you can also detect unreliable estimations from the uncertainty, and anomalous crop seasons, as you can see here. So you can detect the anomalous crop season and just try to understand that one. And one more thing you can do is also analyze the sensitivity of the models. And if you think that they're representative of your system, you can analyze the sensitivity of possible changes of environmental and crop conditions into that model. So what would be the result of increasing temperatures or adding more fertilizer, this kind of study. It's also possible once you have a trained trained model. And this is just the last project that I wanted to share with you today is it's a collaboration with the Joint Research Project in the ASAP system. It's Anomaly Hotspots of Agricultural Production. We work with them into developing a machine learning modeling framework to forecast yield in a different number of countries that they are monitoring. And this phase 1 project saw feasibility for a number of countries, and we are now starting phase 2 with JRC and also with FAO and the FAO GIVES project, and we'll be starting very soon in December. So let me just show how we approach this problem. So this problem, the great challenge of this problem is the context, because the access of data is very limited in the countries that are the target of the system, right? We only have 16 years of data, which is not much, and then we have one value per country. So this is not really the ideal setting for machine learning to work. But luckily, like the GPRs are also able to cope with low to moderate size data sets. So we could exploit what we learn with GPs and apply them to this problem. And we applied it to 81 food insecure countries that were considered. We had to group the countries in order to get higher samples, so more data to learn from them. And then the forecasts were triggered at 75% of the growth cycle and at the end of the season. So these models are in beta testing since 2023, using GPR models, and then as input, we ended up recommending the use of the yield from 3 previous years. So this was very relevant for the predictions to work, and Earth observation data. So Earth observation data itself was not enough. That means we needed to, well, that is related also that we don't have a crop mask, and there's unreliability of the data is uncertain. But then with the Earth observation data and trend from previous years, we were able to provide acceptable forecasts for most like 50% of the countries studied, which is like, it was satisfactory for JRC. So, and then we're gonna like make some improvements, but you can see, for instance, in here that there's the 5-year average would be like just computing the trend of the 5 years will provide in 2023 not a very good assessment, but with the models that we use, we are getting closer, right, to the observed. And also the models are interpretable, so you can see here it outlines which are the most important features for the model to decide on the 2023 forecast, which is like the yield 2 years ago, the temperature, and the radiation in this case. And with this, I got to the conclusions, and I think the first one is the most important, which is like there's a unique opportunity to harness AI and Earth observation. I think the two can be greatly combined for the best, and then to build climate resilient agri-food systems. And in particular, we're looking for more efficient, more sustainable, and also adaptable systems in the current context of climate change. And then I saw the potential of AI and AO for automatic anticipation and detection of extreme events. And the target will be to understand why they were produced. Cause effect estimations, and we're on it. I think the community is going into that direction. And also for crop yield estimations, there is a lot of potential. Also, if the data is limited, as I saw you with the ERC problem. And in all the applications, machine learning interpretability is key for accountability and for extracting knowledge. And I think this is, this will be like my take-home messages. So,
María, muchísimas gracias por tu presentación.
Thank you, Maria, for your presentation.
Me voy a cambiar, perdón, a mi idioma, un segundo. De nuevo, María, muchísimas gracias por
Thanks, Maria, for your presentation, so detailed and clear. You have shown with great detail two apps of AI and ML in problems there are or challenges that are key for the regions and the countries in the Americas. On one hand, everything related to drought monitoring, and on the other hand, the crop yield prediction. So we have 10th of questions. We are making an effort with the team to summarize them, to group them, so you will understand that probably we're not going to be able to address all the questions because of time reasons. But okay, now I would like to give the floor to Professor Ioannis for him to give us his presentation. And after his presentation, we will open the space for questions and answers, collecting everything you put on the Q&A part and on the chat box. Dr. Yanis, thank you very much again. Go ahead with your presentation. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Let me start my slideshow. I'm very happy to be with you today and set the scene in this event on how AI contributes to agri-food systems and how it's applied in agriculture. I think there are not really a lot to say after Maria's presentation, but I will try to bring a couple of further points and offer them for discussion. Well, let me start with this provocative statement that, well, this sunflower does not exist that you've seen in my previous slides. It was generated by AI. But how? With generative models like, in this case, DALL-E 2, but they are of the family of ChatGPT and BART. How do they work? How are they can create these virtual photographs of which are really realistic? And the same thing happens with text for ChatGPT. This is thanks to end-to-end training with deep learning that learns both data summaries and predictive models together. It involves very big models and massive data sets, and that was only possible with detailed evaluation with optimized hardware and software. At the same time, these models are no magic wands. They are limited by the way they are developed and carry over the biases of the data we use to train them. This is also why we need to realize that while impressive, generative models could be hallucinating when you interact with them. And today, AI and generative models, but also other forms of AI, push the scientific boundaries forward by helping scientists solve several complex problems. AI powers the detection of skin cancer from images, can predict how proteins fold, can restore Greek ancient text from scripts, and discover faster algorithms for matrix multiplication. Is it transforming agriculture as well? I think it does. And we have seen several successes in the agri-food sector. A number of scientific studies over the past 25 years, originated back to work of NASA in early 2000, have shown that with remote sensing images, we can detect when crops are under stress. And today, combined with data-driven AI models, such magical tools are already getting in the hands of farmers and offer them advices on how to grow their crops. Another great success in the agri-food domain is the extensive application of machine vision for plant phenotyping. This community has advanced rapidly in the past decade by sharing open data and standardizing the problem of leaf detection and leaf counting for developing data-driven AI models. Today, such advancements are used at large-scale phenotyping facility like this one here in Wageningen, but also several companies are engaging in. However, from a methodological point of view, most of these extraordinary results boil down into discovering patterns from data with labels, learning from teachers that give out the answers. They build upon the recent advances in AI for detecting patterns with machine vision and language modeling. But their success is also their weak points. Collecting labels remains a problem, and especially in agriculture, we don't have that many of them, but also the models learn patterns that are sensitive to local effects. In other words, it's hard to learn generic solutions that can be easily applied out of the box. At the same time, there has been less of a focus on systems understanding approach for addressing global challenges. And we know, probably you know better than me, that sustainability and sustainable development goals deal with weak problems that involve new unprecedented conditions for which we have little experience, let alone observations. Data are sparse with long tails, high heterogeneous and noisy. Decision-making and management is full of deep uncertainty, and stakes are contested with value conflicts between interest groups and complex cross-scale interactions between humans, environments, and crops. In this environment, this setting is something that we haven't explored a lot as a scientific community, and I think it's a challenging focus for the future. And talking about the future, we are, and if we see how we look into agriculture and the farm of the future, this is a sketch from a facility here in Wageningen. We are envisioning an era where farmers will become more or less something like pilots. They will be flying drones, collect data from all kinds of sensors. And if we look into the data landscape, it will involve data from genotypes to remote sensing imageries and everything in between. There was a recent Nature food editorial that made the point, well, we can do more with all this information that we do have available. We do have computational power, we do have experience, and we do have big data that are already here and open up opportunities for tackling food security problems more accurately and inclusively. And indeed, that's probably the case, but the key question is how to achieve it. And the AI research community really wants to contribute in addressing such challenges, and several initiatives have emerged recently under the term AI for good. We can just use the magic wand of AI and use methods from the shelf. Well, I think that we cannot. As we deal with wicked problems, with too many uncertainties, where logical theories fail, we don't have a lot of historical data, our data sets are small and incomplete, therefore not representative of future conditions. Therefore, and looking forward, we need new tailor-made hybrid forms of AI that leverage the power of artificial intelligence together with the extensive knowledge we have of natural systems and use it for trustworthy decision-making to address food security problems. We cannot waste the knowledge we already have and expect that AI will rediscover it from data. In this sense, my approach is that the way ahead is to involve agri-environmental theory together with data, data-driven methods together with knowledge-based methods. And to that extent, I will show some of the recent research we have been using in applying these kind of hybrid methods to learn from data and theory together and mix data-driven and knowledge-based approaches. Let's see what we can do in cases where we do have better organized and relatively complete data, using as an example a case study of regional crop yield forecasting in Europe. Crop yield forecasts are useful to many stakeholders, including policymakers, and the European Commission Joint Research Centre provides national crop yield forecasts based on statistical models and expert judgment. While successful, there has been little improvement in the quality of these forecasts in the past decades. What we have done in my team is we investigated how data-driven AI may help us to improve crop yield forecasting in Europe, but also scale it down to regional forecasts. We work closely with the scientists at the Joint Research Centre and experts in Wageningen research to include agronomic expertise on carefully designing appropriate data representations, and then developed and thoroughly tested a generic methodology that is reusable across scales, crops, and regions. We tested it for 35 multi-year case studies for 6 different crops and 9 countries. And we achieved some wonderful results. We produced reliable in-season forecasts at regional and national level in all 35 countries. National forecasts are comparable with the operational system in place and actually improved predictions in 25 out of 35 cases. But most importantly, we were able to scale down predictions into regional forecasts that provided additional insights about yield variability within countries and helped to better understand the uncertainties involved in European food production systems. And to further demonstrate the generality of the approach, we have even extended it for the US. The same method was tested at country and 10-kilometer grid level, showing similarly good results. With this example, you can see how data-driven AI may help address issues related to food security at scale, but also how we can benefit from standardizing data and comparing methods beyond a single case study. At the same time, this is not a magic wand. Such forecasting systems will struggle with making reliable predictions in a changing climate, and probably it's more difficult to deploy them in low-income countries, as already Maria has pointed out. In a second case study, we developed a machine learning emulator to support tactical fertilization decisions for pastures. Here, we want to employ machine learning that is able to offer advice using minimal information from research, from recent data that are available. However, as ground truth data is limited, we ask for process-based models to give us a hand. What we did is we employed a crop growth model, in this case UpSim, to simulate more than 1.3 million simulations and then emulate the pasture response to nitrogen in 8 diverse locations all across New Zealand. And then we developed an operational machine learning that estimates the nitrogen response rate without having ever seen the response in the location for which it makes predictions. The results have been very promising, as you can see, for all locations. Without using data from this particular location, a tactical machine learning model was able to estimate the nitrogen response rates within a margin that was set as a threshold by experts for using the model in practice. A model that is using only 4 weeks of prior weather, prior to fertilization, was able to learn the risks of applying nitrogen or not in pastures in New Zealand. In another case study, we want to use AI to discover how more sustainable fertilization strategies. However, we don't have labels to learn from. Experimental strategies are seldom applied by farmers today. Most of them do what is optimal or considered to be optimal. And so even if we collect all the data from the farmers, we will not have a lot of variability on how to about new strategies. And in this study, we demonstrate, or we experimented, how machine learning can learn from simulation systems and discover strategy from principles. We used reinforcement learning, where machine learning learns from rewards by trial and error. AI learns to decide when to fertilize a simulated wheat field and how much. At the end of each simulated season, AI is given a positive reward for the more yield it produced, a negative reward for the more nitrogen it applied. After about 500,000 simulations, AI learned from rewards that reflect sustainability principles from the knowledge of the agronomy in the simulation models, how to maintain high yields while at the same time reduce fertilizer use in 3 out of 4 cases. Still, not a magic wand, because the simulations are wall, and such methods could be hard to bring into practice, but it shows how we can employ AI and reinforcement learning from rewards by trial and error to discover new policies that could actually reduce the use of fertilizer while maintaining yields. And I will conclude with a 4th example where we attempt to go a step further and mix data-driven AI with theory. This is a very new, very active area of research named knowledge-guided machine learning. And we have started about 2 years ago to investigate how to incorporate the theory of crop growth into the structure of deep learning models. Let me explain a little bit about a case study we have been doing on rice growth. We developed a deep learning model that predicts several crop characteristics during the season. Our labels are time series, as you can see here on the right, including the development stage, the weight of various parts of the plant, and the final yield, and can provide with explanation about how this rice field grows. And then, instead of just having a deep learning model like we have in the top, where it learns a complex structure to mimic this data, to predict this data, we added some knowledge constraints in the model structure that reflects what we know from theory about the underlying processes and enforce physical principles as, for example, mass balance. Such an approach offers guarantees by design that the deep learning model produces only physically plausible results. And if we look a little bit under the hood, here what we see is how an unconstrained deep learning model learns to predict crop growth. The deep learning model in red predicts the target observed yield extremely well, better than the process-based model in blue. However, you could say that it hallucinates as it produces rather unrealistic growth curves. In contrary, our knowledge-guided hybrid AI model, already from the beginning of the training process, produces more realistic crop growth curves while it still provides better estimates of crop yields. Such new methods can ensure that we can learn more with what we already have. With knowledge-guided machine learning, we can make better use of the few data points we have available and improve predictions by incorporating theory into data-driven AI. At the same time, AI is not a magic wand. As we said before, oftentimes it hallucinates. In this example, by slightly changing the image, adding random noise, a model may start predicting totally wrong labels with equally great confidence, and instead of bell peppers, detecting things as being strainers. Well, to reflect a little bit on what type of agri-food AI are we aiming for, I believe that we should focus less on predictions and estimating numbers, but start focusing more into feedbacks and policies and start to developing intelligent machines, intelligent modules that are able to help us make the right decisions on the field or for advising policy. We need to start building a new generation of digital twins that is not only focused on predictions, but rather learn policies. And to that, We need to work on extensive testing and experimentation that allows us to investigate how AI works beyond a single case study, pull data together. And this is a direction we are working currently with a major EU project called Agri-Food that started just this year to build the European facilities for testing and experimenting AI solutions in the agriculture and agro-food robotics sector. And what comes next? Another activity we're launching together with the AgMIP community is to build interdisciplinary community to facilitate knowledge exchange and collaboration, coordinate activities and products, but most importantly, focus on benchmarking, apple-to-apple comparisons that allows us to learn about the strengths and weaknesses of various approaches and employ machine learning for agricultural modeling. If you're interested, join us at agamel.org. To summarize, artificial intelligence offers new opportunities ahead for disruptive changes in scientific discoveries, in policy design, in using AI for communication tools and support this vision of hands-free agriculture. However, there are limitations in terms of data availability, ownership, and governance, but also the limitations in skills and capacity building. And of course, there are limitations in terms of values and ethics for responsible innovation. To this, I would like to conclude with three discussion points. I think I made my point that AI is not a magic wand for agricultural modeling. In agricultural and environmental systems research, purely data-driven approaches won't work out of the box because we don't have the right data available. And even if we had, it wouldn't be able to answer alone the right questions for addressing global challenges. Questions that involve transitions in new situations. Therefore, a use-inspired hybrid approach is necessary that is inclusive and responsible, and that will trigger new AI questions. With that, I would like to thank you very much and open for discussion.
Muchísimas gracias, profesor Atanasiadis.
Thank you very much, Professor Atanasiadis.
Thank you very much
for your presentation, very deep presentation. Without a doubt, it leaves us thinking that is today's main objective, which is that there's been dozens of questions. So we'll go straight to our Q&A session together with Delisi, my colleague, part of the agro digitalization program. I will have approximately 15 minutes for these Q&A to be able to fulfill with our time. I think it'll give us enough for 2 or 3 questions to our speakers, and then we'll give the floor to Lawrence Clerk and for him to provide some final closing comments. So, Lisi, you have the use of the floor for the first question. Thank you, Federico. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. First question is for Maria. Maria, how extrapolatable are the experiences to other regions, crops, etc.? Does this limit the algorithms or the models? Well, thanks for the question, and I'll respond in Spanish. Well, the truth of the matter, we have to adopt the model to the area of study. But in general, it's important to have data, crops, if we're talking about certain crop, data on harvest or with quality data. So initially, our experience is the transfer learning of learning one place and applying in a different place is not very easy for crop yield. But we have focused in different issues in the US, Europe, or at continental level. And if we take the problem with the information we had been able to develop the necessary tools. So the answer is yes, whether it's easier or harder, but it can be done. Thank you, Maria. And I'll go with a question for Giovanni. And taking components from different questions that were made. And possibly, Maria, if you have any comment regarding that question also, it's also welcome. The question is, what development models of international artificial intelligence do you know about for financing? In other words, are the public developments, universities or institutes, or are there also developments in private sector? Or how much have you seen, public or private, have you seen in these developments of AI as far as models that are used for financing or developing AI? And completing the question with if there's a concern from the participant, which is how accessible, mainly for small producers with less resources, how feasible are all these tools, those such novelist tools are for small producers, and if these can become an element that it might actually broaden gaps and generate exclusion. I do apologize if the question is too long, but do you have any thoughts, Ioannis, regarding the question, and Maria also?
Yeah, let me try first, and then Maria, you can fill in. I think there were two parts into this. One is related to funding, who invests into AI in agriculture, and I think both academic and the private sector is funding and investing into this direction. To be very honest, a fundamental problem that I think both of us indicated is the lack of high quality data sets, long data sets. What I typically try to say to my machine learning colleagues, if you need 1 year to collect a single label, you understand that this cannot go very fast. So even if we had all the data of the past 30 years, we will never going to have enough data to build very big AI models. And this is part of the problem in our domain, that independently of who funds it, either it is university or development funds or the private sector, still we have fundamental problems that are particular to our community. I also know that there is a community, I don't remember the name out of my head, but I could find it out, and I will tweet about it, that has created an inventory of AI and data-driven solutions for the Global South, where it shows different kinds of patterns and success stories and the components of how this has been financed and became available. The second part of the question is to what extent this is accessible from smaller farmers, and there I agree with what I sent you, imply that, well, this requires a lot of different kinds of skills, accessibility to data, to computational facilities, which could be disruptive. So who is going to be doing this, and who will make this available to stakeholders? It could be changing the landscape quite a lot. Maybe this will be an opportunity for newcomers and new companies, or big companies or smaller ones, to emerge and innovate in this field. That's something we have seen in other industries, or could be that the existing big players will grow into this direction. But yes, I cannot tell which one of the two will probably happen. I don't know, Maria, if you have a further comment on this, but that was my first reaction.
Yeah, I totally agree with Janice. I think funding comes from private or public sectors. Both are interested in agriculture applications, and I think the important thing, and they target different scales too. So like for small farmer to the country scale. But yeah, I think as to how transferable they are or applicable are for your farm, I think we're not there yet. So there's not generic applications for everything. I think there's need for tailoring the approaches to specific needs. But we should be able with open access code and open access data, we're going into that direction, that we should be able to tailor the solution to all the different farmers at some point. That will be the global hope. Yeah.
Gracias, Ioannis. Gracias, María. Le paso la palabra a
Well,
Elisa.
thank you, Maria. And then I give the floor to Elise for another question. And the next question is for Maria. How can you extrapolate the anomaly detection models to identify anomalies in real time? Is this possible to quantify the size of the impact that can be caused by phenomena such as El Nino? Well, as a matter of fact, we're working on that. We're working on trying to include something that's called graph networks that allows to show the Earth as an interconnected system to show different climate events to detect extremes. And for instance, recent study shows that this helps predict fires. So it makes sense that if we use it for drought detection, it can also be used. I think it is relevant. We're on that direction to introduce all the information we have in the models. Yes. Yes, I hope I answered your question. Yes.
Gracias, María.
Thank you, Maria.
Seguimos.
And let's continue.
Una pregunta que iba
I'm
más
going to
bien
take a
dirigida
question
a
that
Ioannis.
is more for
Está en la
Ika
empresa base
to
de
answer
datos.
that
Gracias a Ioannis.
briefly and then ask Yanis. A question from Dario. He's asking, what purpose does IICA have to promote not only discussions, but also on AI, but also the application of AI in the agro sector at world level? Undoubtedly, uh, as we said initially, and as Maria and Ioannis repeated, artificial intelligence in its broadest sense is cross section to all the areas of our life and agriculture, of course. And with that, with that fact, from IICA, we believe it's necessary to have discussion spaces where we can better understand what is happening and understand together what could happen, which are the circumstances, implications, or limitations for the advancement, in this case, of AI. Having said this, I go ahead and pose the question, which collects parts of other questions, and this is for Ioannis. Ioannis, you were very clear. Uh, not exactly using the words that you use, but I understand the concept. You're very clear. And Maria Ioannis, that data is essential to good data is core to have a good use of AI. I mean, good data. And that in any case, there could be a hybrid between artificial intelligence and human intelligence. And this will give different balance as technology advances. But the combination of both will always be necessary. What they were asking Ioannis, what risks or what potential negative impacts Do you believe there could be, if we lose sight of that these have to go together, AI and human intelligence? Or in other words, if we trust everything to artificial intelligence, farm management, or designing a policy, or scientific learning based on a number of data experiments, which are the concrete risks of only using AI that we should be informed of and try to prevent?
Well, to be very clear about it, we should be stupid to just trust AI alone. We are not there yet. And I don't think we need to go there yet. On the other hand, there is an opportunity that, as I think both Maria and I showcased, we can use AI to better inform decisions, manage risks, scale up decision making into higher resolutions. So we need to have a responsible pathway to employing AI in agriculture and do it for the right reasons, not just do it because we can. So my approach and my answer to this is we need to employ AI for answering the right questions, and that's something we need to do together. It will not come from some kind of magic wand or from an AI community that will do something. But we, the ag people, need to bring the right context and the right questions that are important.
Muchísimas gracias, Giovanni.
Thank you very much, Yanis. And we do have 3 more minutes. With that time, we'll have one final question for both. Questions for both to see if you have any comment or any view. And for that, I give the floor to Alice. I think this question could be for both of you. What's your vision on how data analysis will transform agriculture globally in the next decade? What are your views in this transforming agriculture? Maria. What comes to mind is what Ioannis mentioned, the image of the farmer in a helicopter, pilot the helicopter. Would I hope to say that whatever code we create for it to be free and that technology is available to everyone? That's what I hope. From there on, the important thing would be that to be able to adapt to the changes that are coming, and for farmers to be able, from a plane or somebody helping them, be prepared, to get prepared and adapt to the needs. And that's what I believe is most important, for technology to be accessible to everyone going forward. And in the future, well, those farmers who like to go to the field, to walk the field every day, and those who like technology to adapt, but for everyone to find, to have access to all the technologies that are available. Thank you, Maria. Ioannis.
Thank you, Maria. Maybe if I can add a point to this, I agree with what Maria said. Maybe an important thing for the next decade is to identify how we can better prepare for climate change. How can we provide food for the whole humanity? I think these are the major global challenges that AI needs to help us, help humanity survive. How can we take better decisions on fields? How we can make better plans at a global level? These are the challenges that I would expect AI to help us transform agriculture. To be very honest with you, I don't expect this helicopter farmer to happen anytime soon. And I think in my personal point of view, it's also not desirable. We want people, or I want people to grow our food. But if we can help them and help us do it more efficiently, that's the major challenge for AI in agriculture.
Muchísimas gracias nuevamente a la
Thank you very
doctora.
much once again to Dr. Maria Piles in behalf of IICA. We thank you very much for your participation, and also to Oyanis Athanasiadis. Thank you very much for your time, for your thoughts, for your comments, for your presentation in this space. It's very useful for us. We've had over 500 people between here and social media connected, over 500 at all times. So we invite in the last minutes Lawrence Clerks, as we said, to give us a closing comments. He's a professor of the University Teca in Chile, and he's part of it, and he continues a link to the university also in Holland, and he's a part of us also. Lawrence, as always, we highly value your presence here, and we know that better than know when you can collect the main views that were presented after Ioannis and Maria's presentation to give us a final reflection. Thank you, on behalf of IICA, for being here. Thank you very much, Federico, and I thank Maria Ioannis also for your interesting presentation. For me, they were quite clarifying in the sense that they show from the perspective of the scientists who developed this technology, we have to go beyond that. We don't have to wait all for AI. That's been proven. There are very important developments, but we also have to be realistic. At this moment, AI will not save the world, will not drive the transformation of food system by itself. By itself, it won't inform everyone on policies. I think that was a very clear message, but it can be a very interesting tool and very powerful tool. And I was able to recover several messages from both presentations, which I want to reflect upon. One thing is related to the fundamental, which is that the humans are in the loop, human in the loop. Those who develop these technologies, they say that it cannot be done without humans. No, possibly we're still in a moment where humans still have very clear role in verifying that what the models are producing, machine learning models, is something that makes sense, in fact, and it has to be calibrated with reality, with knowledge, and all the experience that humans have. And also, humans, is very important to train these models, and we still have a long ways in to go as far as the huge amount of data we need and where we need to take that information from. And here we have ethical model questions: who trains the models? Are they well paid or not? And there are various debates surrounding that. That models don't learn by themselves; they have to be trained. So this about human in the loop, I think, was very interesting. It has to be considered, highly considered. I think a human is a little in the loop. I think the human has to be more in the loop. And something else that called my attention of Maria's presentation, in this case, is this about interpretability. I think it's clear that we know how to interpret the models, our AI models, and what about the machine learning models and what they produce? Uh, and we must doubt a bit, is the point. All, that we can still not trust 100% on this. We not only have to train the models, but we have to train the humans how to work with AI. And this is being done now with students. They're being told, don't put everything in ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not trustworthy in everything. And this can cause misinformation, disinformation. What Yanni said, hallucination. I think this is also a very important topic. We should put all our faith in artificial intelligence at this moment. However, I think there are very good and interesting applications. I think what Ioannis and Maria showed are large scale models that are good for predictions, for very important decisions, however, where to send support to harvest or crops that might fail, or how to take measures for water distribution. These are very big models and good for that, but there's still a lot required to make these work. But at small scale, there is AI that's very useful to detect past disease. I recently saw an article that speaks about ChatGPT as a tool for extensionists to recover information. I think they're very good small scale applications. And it's also necessary to have a curator of what artificial intelligence is quite mature and what AI is at a very early stage. And here, institutions like ICA can have very important roles. What also called my attention is that we have to be very aware of the overscale effects of AI when artificial intelligence becomes autonomous, when it becomes an autonomous tools, when it makes decisions, it's going to have effects that go across the system, and we must understand what it can cause, AI can cause, or if there's are going to be side to side with humans, and how much autonomy they'll have, who can push the red button if it's necessary. So how to control it also to have that's also very important. And I think for that, and I'm reaching my last point, which Ioannis said, is that when we must have inclusive development and responsible development. And I believe there are many instances in the world that are thinking about this. Here in Chile, last week we had a gathering in the country where there was discussions on what AI does, not only in agriculture, but also in other environments. What will be the limits that we as humans give to artificial intelligence, but also for smaller technologies, more accurate technologies. We can use ELSA laboratories. I'm sure Yannis recalls this, the ELSA labs. And these are laboratories, living labs on critical legal aspects, social aspects on AI. And this is done with stakeholders and thus creates artificial intelligence that actually works, where the sectors will have interpretability and will be co-developing these technologies. So I think these are very important examples to develop artificial intelligence that will work well in various contexts and possibly even know when to not use these, for instance, because the data availability is not very good and will never be very good because of infrastructure limitations, financial limitations, so on and so forth. So I think with this, I finished my reflection. It was very interesting. And what we must continue is this, where ICA can take a very important role for America. And thank you very much to the speakers and also for ICA for allowing the space of reflection.
Muchísimas gracias,
Well,
Lorenzo.
thank you very much, Lawrence. Very rich, deep, your points as we're used to from you.
Vamos,
So
decimos en Argentina,
as we say in Argentina,
que el ICA
we
tiene
are raising our glove in our hand, our
para
glove,
aportar
that ICA has a lot to
en esta
share,
materia.
a lot to do in
Este
this
seminario fue en realidad
regard.
nuestro primer
This
contacto
webinar
con
was
este
our
excelente
first
tema
contribution, but
y las
without a
preguntas
doubt, with all the interest there was and the
que nosotros
questions we
disponíamos
had,
para responder
Many of them we couldn't entertain because of time constraints, but it makes us think about a next step. We cannot say right now what it's going to be or what it will be, but we will say we will we are leaving with the mandate to give continuity to the conversation we started today because of all the reasons you all gave. And to wrap it up and to in our time, once again, I want to thank Maria, uh, Maria from the University of Valencia, Ioannis, and Lawrence, University of Italca, Ioannis University, Netherlands, and we thank your institutions also. ICA highly values your work and also everyone who connected. And we'll also have it, as you saw in the chat, the recording of the session will be available not only in Zoom, but you will also see it in Facebook, in YouTube, and Facebook for Spanish and YouTube for English. And to finish, special thanks to all the ICA team and to Carlos, Lisi, the ICT team, to the interpreters, to everyone who was involved in organizing this event, who made it possible, and for this to be completed in time and form, and for all the contributions to those who helped. So thank you very much, and we'll meet in a next discussion. Have a good day. Goodbye.
Gracias.